Okay. If you are hearing this, you are in the 200 section of the course, which means you're in the honors course, which is why I keep saying honors to you. So what this means is that you have to do an extra assignment in order to earn your honors credit. What you're going to be doing this semester is creating and carrying out a simple research project in some aspect of arthropod biology, so you can investigate pretty much whatever you want. You can find the information on this research project on the front page and under the module called Honors Research Assignment. So this is the first page that you'll see, and then you'll be going to the video. Now, here is the overview of the research project. So you have to design and carry out a research project in entomology. You can either do this on your own, or you can work in small groups of non-honors students. So you have the ability to ask me to put out a call for help in the regular section, and you can have as many people as you want help you out. They will earn extra credit for helping you this semester. They can each earn up to 50 points of extra credits, basically the volunteer extra credit they can do, and your job will be to tell me how many points they earned. So, if you have them do a lot of work, give them 50 points. And this is for each person can earn 50 points. If they don't do much or they didn't do what they were supposed to do, you can give them less. If they said they were going to help and they didn't help at all, give them a 0. Whatever it is, I will ask you at the end of the semester what they earned. So it's up to you to figure out what you want. Now, there are 4 assignments associated with this project, and they are outlined here on this honors assignment page. So keep this in mind. I've tried to give you as much time as possible to run the project. So make sure that you, 1, develop a project that you could actually do in a couple of weeks, and 2, you keep in mind when these things are due. Okay, so here are the major due dates we have there. And then once you are done running through this project, you need to write up a final paper. So the report length is going to be a minimum of 1,000 words. That's a couple of pages. And this doesn't include references. You need both in-paper citations and references at the end of the paper. Now, I have a list for you on the next page of potential research projects or topics. This should just give you an idea of what you can do. Now, these projects, feel free to grab one and run it if you want, or if maybe it sparks an idea in you, run with that. But this should just give you an idea of the type of project I'm looking for. I'm not looking for some massive thesis where you're ending world hunger or something. I'm asking for a very simple question with a very simple protocol. I anticipate that you should be able to run your project in a single weekend. That's the level I'm looking for. Very, very simple, very straightforward. Okay, now each of you will turn in your own project, your own paper, and you will send it to this journal. This is the Journal of Student Research that is run by the entomology department, and it is managed by a group of students every spring. So you can hit that link and check out the types of projects that people have done in the past. And they're very simple. Some people have submerged eggs in water to see if they would hatch for different periods of time. Others have determined the efficacy of different insecticides against cockroaches. People have done a lot of insecticide stuff. People have looked at, like lemon juice and peppermint oil on killing fire ants. There's just a whole bunch of things that people have done. So this should give you some interesting ideas. And there's several volumes of this journal available now. So you can go through, see a bunch of different types of things. The other thing you're going to need on this journal site is if you click on this For Authors paper or link, you have the author guidelines. These author guidelines will give you exactly what I want in terms of how that paper should be set up. So it's everything from the font size to whether it's centered or not, to if there's indentation in places, all that sort of stuff. So it's really a lot of information here. Here's how the references should be formatted. Everything is there. Everything you could possibly need is there. So double check that. You will need to register for the journal. So you put in your name, put in a good email address for you. And then if you have people help you out on the project, you will need to give them authorship if they've done a substantial amount of work. So I have a whole video on who gets authorship. If you end up using my lab, or I give you materials, or I help you out in some way, since I'm paying for all that, I will get final authorship. So it's the last list. I'm the last in the list of authors, just because I'm financing it and you're using my space and all that jazz. When you look at the author list, the people who are first, this should be you. First author means that's the person who did the most work, who has the most skin in the game, so to speak. The last author is the person who usually paid for it or whose space you use. So it's the professor or the PI or whatever that helped you out. So that would be me. And then anybody else that helped substantially either write or collect data or whatever else goes in the middle. So all the people need to be listed as authors. Now, it's no skin off your nose if you give somebody authorship. So when in doubt, give somebody authorship. It is much easier just to give them authorship than it is to get into a fight about it later on. Okay, so here's your basic report length. You're going to write up a report that's a minimum of 1,000 words. And then you can work in this group. And you're going to start recruiting people as soon as possible. Your very first assignment is going to be your research question and hypothesis. Now, I've put up, and I'll show you in a minute, a bunch of resources and stuff for you to use in case you forget how to do it, or you need a refresher or whatever else. And I've recorded a whole mess of videos on all of these things, teaching you how to write the paper, how to set up the protocol, how to do absolutely everything with this assignment. So it's all here for you, open now, ready to go. So your experimental design, you need to start out with your research question. Let's say you want to do something very simple. Let's say you want to trap cockroaches in your apartment or your apartment building. You know, how many cockroaches are in a normal residential apartment building in College Station? Let's say that. Pretty simple, straightforward. You can do that in a weekend. Great. So that's your research question. Then you're going to come up with a hypothesis. Your hypothesis is there's going to be more than 300, say, over a 48-hour period. Great. Then you're going to design the project. Your experimental design is your protocol. So those of you who have taken any type of other science class with a lab, you often have these protocols that you have to run through in class. And it gives you a step-by-step exactly what to do for this research project. That's what I want you to write up. Step-by-step, what you're going to do there. So a research protocol, you should be able to hand that to literally anybody else in the world and say, run this project, and they should be able to. It'll start out with a materials list, what exactly you need. Now, I can buy you a little bit of materials. We have almost no budget though, and there's a bunch of you trying to do this. So we're going to have to share a lot, and we're going to have to use stuff that I already have. So if you need something that you don't have yourself, come and talk to me about it. We might be able to work something out. If it's something cheap enough that I can buy or I can rustle up in my lab, then we can do that. We might pool a bunch of you together and share resources that way. So we'll have to figure out how to get you the materials. If you need a little bit of space to run this, I do have a room in the Minibel Heat building, room 108, that you can run your experiment in. So we can set up a time where you meet me or the TAs and you get access and you can use that room. But anyhow, you have to put it all together on this experimental design. So go through these questions here. Read this in depth. Think about all these different things that need to go in the question. What equipment do you need? How much time do you need? Do you need to run this experiment more than once? You should be running a minimum of 3 replications for any project other than a survey type of thing. What are your controls? Do you need controls? You usually do. How are you going to analyze these data? Are you going to have to do some stats? Is it just going to be raw data reporting? What are you going to do there? How are you going to present the data in your paper? This is a big deal. This is something that most people don't know to think about before you start your project. But before you start your project, think about, do you want to present this as a bar graph, as a table, as a pie graph, in some other way, because it makes it much easier after the fact if you are thinking about how you're going to present the data while you're creating this project. Think about all these things before you get started, and then come and talk to me or the TAs if you need some equipment, and we will go through some of these things for you. Okay, now once you have the basic design, you're going to need to write up your materials and methods and turn it in. So that's your second project. That's due a couple of weeks after your research question. So this gives me a chance to look at your materials and methods, see if I can catch anything that might be an issue right off the bat. And it gives you a chance to write things up in a final form so you're ready to hit the ground running. Because about a month later, just under a month later or so, or just over a month later actually, you need to turn in your data. So you will run the project after you turn in this protocol and gather data. Then you turn in that data about 2.5 weeks before the final project is due. I just want to see that you've had enough time to gather data and that you actually have some data to write about. So you go through that data. You don't actually have to analyze the data for this data collection portion. You just need to turn in raw data. That's fine. Okay. And then finally, you need to write up your scientific paper. Again, you've got a direct link here to the author guidelines. These are the guidelines you need to follow in order to get full credit on your paper. You can also just head over to this journal, to the InStars journal, and see how people have formatted their papers. So if you open up one of these papers, you'll get an idea of how it's formatted. Just copy this, basically. You'll be good to go. Now, I want you to have a minimum of 10 references for this project. So keep that in mind. Constantly be looking for references here, and then you're going to find a whole bunch of resources on how to write a paper in this module. Now, in order to get full credit, you need to both turn in the paper to Canvas here, and it will be sent through turnitin.com to check for plagiarism, as I'm required to do by the university, and you need to submit it for possible publication in the journal InStars. So this will be looked at next year at the next group of papers, and you might get a publication out of this, which means you'll be able to graduate undergrad with a publication under your belt. So this is an international journal. People from all over the world submit here, and they read it here too. So it'll be referenced in a bunch of databases, including Google Scholar, if you get chosen. Now, if you end up working in a group, your group members are going to be earning extra credit for their time and effort. Your job is to tell me how much they earn. Now, your final paper is going to go through 2 reviews. First, I'm going to grade it in according to the rubric that is attached to the assignment, which I'll just show you in a second. And second, a group of peer reviewers and editors at the journal will review your paper and decide if it's ready for publication or not. So your grade for this semester will be based on my review. You will hear back about the publication during the next round of reviews. So that'll be next year. Okay, so that's basically the overview. I've written out a bunch of details here for you, so make sure you take the time and read through all of these directions. Pretty much every question you could possibly have is answered here. Now, the rest of the stuff that you see in this module goes into the research questions. So I've got another link to the InStars journal here for you so that you can go and see what people have done in the past. But here are some basic ideas on research papers. So one is, are perfumes a good substitute for mosquito repellent? So I've got some basic reference material for you, a whole bunch of stuff here, a bunch of papers that you can read. Go through these resources and get started there. Now, you will need some scientific papers to back up your data and back up your research. We have access to all of these papers through the library. You do not have to pay for a paper at all. There are times when you try to pull up a paper and it says, buy this for however many dollars, like $35 a paper. Do not pay for papers. Go to the library and pull papers from there. You already pay for all of these through your fees. So this is one question. This is the type of format I'm looking for your research question. Are perfumes good substitute? Are homemade fly traps as effective as commercial ones? In this case, you're going to be testing a couple of commercial fly traps that you can buy versus fly traps that you make. Are there any home remedies to get rid of fire ants? This is one that a lot of people like to do. Do common insects glow under UV light? Which ant bait is most effective? Can you catch more flies with honey or with vinegar? An old wives' tale states that if you put grits on a counter, it will create a barrier for ants. Is this true? Old wives' tales are great places to get research ideas. There's all these ideas and things that have been passed down from generation to generation when they talk about insects. This is how you get rid of spiders or ants or fleas or whatever. That is a perfect thing to test. Does it actually work? Along with the old adages like you can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. Can you? Test it. Let's see. Are cinnamon and cinnamon oil effective for repelling ants? What is the most effective insect bite remedy? Can you repel mosquitoes by eating bananas? So this is the basic type of question that I'm looking for. You can choose one of these 10 research questions, or you can come up with one on your own. It's up to you. I found that the easiest way to come up with questions is just to start out with a basic Google search or search on Facebook or on TikTok or on Twitter and see what people are talking about. Have people mention something about insects, test that question and move on from there. Now, so this next page, these are all the presentations that I've written for you on how to write a paper. So it starts out with how to register for InStars and be able to upload papers. Then I've gone through the formatting and the author guidelines that I've shown you. Then I've started out with how do you come up with a paper and how do you write in a scientific format? So go through that. Then I go through the paper step by step, starting with the title and the abstract, moving on to the introduction, materials and methods, results, how to write proper figures, how to do the discussion, and then how to do the acknowledgement and references. So everything you could possibly need to know about how to write the paper, I've presented for you here. Go through these when you're ready to write each one of these parts, and you'll know exactly how to do it. Then you have the several assignments associated with this. The first is your research question hypothesis. This should be pretty straightforward. You can upload this either on a document or you can type it into a box on the assignment. That's going to be worth 10 points right away. Then you're going to do your research protocol. So you have a couple of weeks after you turn in your question to write your research protocol. If there comes a point where you're finding that there's just not a lot of information on this project or this question, go ahead and change your question. You don't have to let me know, just change it. It's fine. Hey, this needs to be a file upload. So it'll be just a little too much to type in there. And Canvas has the bad habit of reloading and that will erase everything that you're trying to type into this box. Don't fall into that and cry. That's awful. So just write it on a Google Doc or something like that and then upload it in PDF format here. So this will be worth 40 points. Then you've got your research data summary. So this is about a month or so after you upload your protocol. So you have about a month to gather your data. Then this is worth 50 points. And again, you can type it into the text entry box or upload it in a file. And then your final project is worth 200 points. And you're going to be uploading a full PDF paper. And you're going to upload it here and you're going to submit it to the journal InStars. Now, I get an email as soon as you submit this to the journal. So once I get that email, that's when I will grade your paper. If you do not submit it, I will not grade your paper. So keep that in mind. Now, I do have a rubric that I will use to grade your paper. So you can see exactly how I'm going to grade your paper here. So go through and read this rubric. It's pretty straightforward. You can see where you need to put all your effort in order to get the most points. So I will grade this and then it'll go into the pool for possible publication. So that's your research project. If you need some help on it or you want to bounce some ideas off me, come and drop by my office hours or you can talk to some TAs. If you really need help coming with an up with an idea, come and talk to me, or talk to the TAs. A lot of them are doing research where they might need help, or they have like a little portion project that they want you to do. That'll work too. I just want you to go through the process of coming up with an idea, running that project, and writing up the paper. If you get negative results, if your research doesn't work, that's fine. Write it up that way. Negative data is still data. So whatever works, that's how it's going to go. All right. That's your honors project. I can't wait to see what you come up with, and let me know if you have any questions.